Queen, clubs. So your card?
Oh, man.
And you both have the same card.
All right, well, we'll get on with the intro.
Yep.
Okay. Tonight we've got our first father-son combination in at Range Project. So welcome to Ethan and Nathan Buzza. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Ethan, you're a STEM student of mine. You've recently started a business called Droneify with the help of Scotch parents. So you've pitched for funding, managed to get some equipment, made some big successes with the Teens in Business Awards. We'll talk about all that. And Nathan, we've invited you in because, well, father-son combination, but also you probably have the most interesting and varied career I've ever heard.
Thank you.
From developing Quasar that you sold to Bono from U2, all the way through to working for the Secret Service in the US, as well as now developing. Oh, there's medicine involved there. There's now. What are we up to again? Like magic tricks. You develop magic tricks for magicians. Okay, it's obviously a very varied career. First question, I'll throw it out to you, Nathan. This is the curly one to start with. Your dad's obviously a very successful businessman. Why didn't he just buy you a drone to start up your company?
Well, I think Dad doesn't really believe in just giving things. He thinks all things need to be worked for. I think might have started off when he was a kid as well. Granddad bought him his first computer at 2% interest rate per month.
Right, so this runs in the family, does it?
Yeah, every generation gets harder.
What is that? What is that mentality, Nathan? Is it?
I mean, Ethan's just been an absolutely fantastic son. I couldn't ask for anything better than what Ethan gives, and he's so motivated to achieve. But I really want him to achieve in his own right. If something's given to someone, they don't have to fight for it. I don't think you get that lesson learned.
Do you think that's come from you as a parent, or do you think that is something that's innate in their personality?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of you have to have the raw intellect, and the raw intellect in isolation is not good or not sufficient, and you have to have the enthusiasm. You know, I remember my father always saying to me as a kid, when I set up my first business, he said, employ on intellect and enthusiasm, because nothing else matters, and employ on enthusiasm over intellect, right? Because if someone's motivated, and we had that philosophy setting up our business all the time, and we'd get the great staff that we had, they'd be working through the weekends to just make something happen. So the enthusiasm works. And I really want Ethan to pick that up. He really does. He
definitely has that.
Yeah, has that passion
It
for
was
everything.
noticeable because it wasn't easy doing what you did. Do you want to briefly explain the process of how you've started your Droneify company?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go right back to the beginning, like the first prototype of the concept. So I've been really interested about technology and business from a very young age. Every day I'm checking like tech forums to check out what's been going on in the tech world and watching YouTube videos. And one day I've read about this article where a gentleman created a 3D model of an apple using about 100 photos using the process of photogrammetry, which is the process of using an algorithm on a computer to convert 2D photographs into a 3D model. And then I had a bit of a penny drop epiphany moment. Could you scale this up to use drone photography to make 3D models? And I was a STEM student at Scotch, so I had the means to test it out. So I asked Mr. McLean if I could use the school drone, and he let me use it. And I started the first prototype of the 3D model, and it worked. So that's where I started off, and then I refined the technique over many weeks and months. And then I figured out that the hardware wasn't really up to date. So I talked to Mr. McLean about getting some updated hardware, and he said, there's a parent committee meeting coming up next week. Would you like to pitch them to get some funding for a new drone? So I did pitch, and they were very generous in funding a new drone for Scotch.
Yeah, you have. There's a nice summary, but there's some things that you probably glossed over significantly, and that's the persistence that you displayed in getting that happening, because that was not insignificant.
Yeah, it was a really tough process. So this technology space is extremely new. So you can't really just look it up on Google and have an answer straight away. It's lots of trial and error, lots of rigorous blood, sweat and tears to get it done. I failed a lot of times, and the failures are really frustrating because in this line of technology, you're rendering something for up to 6, 7, up to 20, 24 hours. And if you have one corrupt file or just one thing goes wrong, the whole thing stuffs up. So when you get that failure screen up on the corrupted file, it's really tough to get over it. But you persevere because you know it's going to be a cool outcome once you get it right.
So Ethan, were you having chats with your dad through all this process and sort of saying, this is just, I'm just over this, this is too hard? Or how did that conversation happen with Dad in terms of, you know, when you faced all these problems?
I don't think I ever really thought I was going to give up. I have like an attitude, just get the job done. So I was always showing Dad the first. I remember showing Dad the first prototype of a 3D model I made of a statue. So it was small scale, just to get proof of concept that the photogrammetry really works. And Dad was really enthusiastic about that and really supportive. And then I remember showing him the first prototype of the Maths and Commerce building 3D model that I made, and he got really excited about that. He thought it was really cool tech. And then further down the line, when I added my first virtual reality integration for the software, Dad was like just mind blown. And it really meant a lot to see Dad really that enthusiastic about the tech, because he has such a large tech background. He's seen lots of stuff. So to get him that excited about technology is really cool.
Well, let's jump to how you got into this tech world, and also probably aligns with how you developed your thoughts on failure as well, from what I've read. Yeah. You had a pretty significant issue as a child and recovered from something it was more or less impossible to recover from, and from then on everything seemed achievable, and then everything, you weren't ever afraid of failing. Am I getting that right?
You're spot on. So when I was 14 years of age, I was diagnosed with a benign astrocytoma sitting on the motor section of my brain, and it occupied about a third of the motor section. And so you never want to have a brain tumour, but you don't want it in the area that controls all your movement. So I had to have neurosurgery to remove that, but that's 1983, so very dangerous surgery to have, and they had to chop out a third of the motor section. And so the neurosurgeon told Mum and Dad that if I lived through the surgery, then it's highly likely I'd lose control of the right-hand side of my body. By some miracle, Dad got some fantastic neurosurgeon across from Switzerland to perform the neurosurgery in New Zealand. An outstanding success. There's zero...
Did you have any input in the choice of what to do?
No, Mum and Dad, at the age, I think your kids were probably a little bit more naive. You know, I think, cool, I'm having brain surgery. And I wasn't quite aware of how severe the risks. I was post-surgery where sort of Mum and Dad went, wow, you know, we're so happy. That was sort of like a really pivotal moment in my life, because for a few things, everything from that point forward never seemed so hard in my adult life. You know, when you're sort of facing your own mortality and a really adverse event, then all the other hurdles that you have to skip over as an entrepreneur don't seem that tough anymore. And I think that philosophy, and Mum and Dad were just so supportive of my entrepreneurial growth, you know, exactly like I am with Dad, with Ethan. It's sort of moved to that generation, and I can see myself so much in Ethan, like the same philosophy. Like I see myself in my own father, right? Just being so supportive and encouraging of setting up your first business. And it's been, it was really fortunate. I set up my first business at 21 years of age.
Wow.
Well, also great timing to learn all that coding as well, because at 14, I guess the first computers were really becoming available to the consumer.
Yeah, and can
Yeah.
I also add, I'm curious as well about your schooling experience around all of that, because obviously you're off doing, pursuing this passion.
Yes.
What role did school play in that? Because obviously it's fantastic now in the Scotch context. We've got all these support
Yeah, some
mechanisms
parallels with
and
COVID, right? Because we have to do some remote learning now, but back then I don't imagine you
Yeah,
would have been
yeah.
getting much.
So it's actually Scotch has quite a big play in all of this. So at the time, I was at King's College in New Zealand. I was born in Perth. We went to the UK, went to New Zealand, and I always excelled in maths and computer science at King's. Then I had the brain surgery, and I had a year off school. And then my pitch to mum and dad was I wanted to go to university in Western Australia because WA had a better calibre of computer science courses than what they offered in New Zealand. So mum and dad said to me at 15, if you could get yourself into a private school in Australia, good luck because it's like a 5-year waiting list, then we'll fund it. And so I jumped on the phone and called up all the private schools in WA. And fortunately, we had a contact, a gentleman, a teacher by the name of Ken Bedwell, who's the physics teacher at Scotch, who was previously the physics teacher in New Zealand. And he managed to get me a position at Scotch. And so I moved across, boarded at Anderson House, and left mum and dad in New Zealand.
wow.
Hanging
That's
out with all
incredible.
the farmers.
Sorry?
Hanging out with all the farmers.
Yeah, you hang out with all the farmers. But it was a really great experience to come over here as a 15-year-old as well.
And so presumably from 14 on, you started to work on this. Can you talk a little bit about working on that project, that first computer, and what
Yeah.
transpired there?
So I think that as the story goes, and we touched on this before, or Ethan did, when I came out of my brain surgery, Dad said to me, there's a brand new $13,000 or $14,000 computer, an IBM PC. And Dad says, well, son, you're unsecured minor. You've just had brain surgery. So you're credit risk. It's 2% a month, 24% per annum. Interest repayments start next month. Start earning your keep. And so I went out and wrote a whole lot of software programs. And so they were very techy at the time, like disk defragmentation software and video games and a whole stack of things. And I started trying to sell those to local computer companies. And the CEO of Philips, Philips were just releasing the world's first 16-colour computer. And I showed off a video game to them. They said, great, we've got to bundle that up with the sale of the Yes PC at the time. And it went amazingly well.
So what was the game?
So the original game was called Powerpack, and then Philips rebranded that when it went into the arcades. So it was all originally it was written in BASIC and in assembly language. We then had to port that into Pascal, so that could then be cross-compiled to various different platforms.
And this is in a console game now, is it?
It is a console game now.
Yep.
And then when I moved back to Perth, just after I finished school, I was very fortunate to work for a company called Omnitronics. And Omnitronics was a gun-for-hire development company. And a school teacher came in called Jeff Hazelhurst. And then Jeff said, I've got $30,000 to spend to develop a game where you run around with laser guns and shoot people. And we said, sure, we'll help you design it. So the best, as a 17 or 18-year-old still studying at uni, it was like the best entourage into a development world. And so we designed it, and then the rock group U2 came in about a year after that, and Bono rocks up into the office.
What?
Right? I'm not even going to try and do an Irish accent.
Yeah.
So he's there with his business managers, and he's got like 10 sheets of A4 paper of all the companies what they own, so the proceeds of the U2 concerts.
Empire.
The Empire, and they end up buying the rights to Quasar, and they shift all the manufacturing across.
Did you get them to throw in some backstage passes or something?
Yeah, I should negotiate harder.
Yeah.
And then and when I set CommtechWireless up,
So what year was that?
this is 89.
Oh, so you two were massive at this point.
Absolutely, right. They're probably the number one rock group in
Yeah.
the world
Yep.
at that time.
And wow! And so, how did Bono and you two come to learn of this
They had
this company? This what was the contact there?
So they were over here. I think it was called the Rattle and Hum Tour,
Yep.
right, in '89, and they went down to Fremantle, and there was a Quasar store. So you had the company designing the tech, but they didn't own the retail store, right, where you pay to play.
I remember playing. I remember going there many times.
And so then they played the game, found out who the manufacturer was, and then they arranged for a meeting in the office. And then it just got acquired. And then, funnily enough, when I set CommTech up, at 20 years of age or whoever I was, desperate for any money we could make, and the first contract was to redesign some of the software. And so then I got the check from U2. And it's like, should I bank this or should I just frame it? And it was like, or 10 seconds, I'll bank it.
Fantastic. So, can I ask you this, Ethan?
Yeah.
Is Powerpack as good as the games you're playing now?
Yeah, a little bit different, I'd say. It definitely has a retro feel.
Yeah.
Nice way of putting it. Well, so, at 14 years old, you were walking into Phillips wearing a suit and pitching ideas, and I guess Ethan's kind of doing a little bit of that now. And because I think you recently went to agricultural show and have been trying to pitch a Droneify business. Where has your business taken you so far outside of it? So you've mapped a lot of the school. Have you done the whole school yet?
Yeah, so actually last week I finished the middle school, senior school, junior school, and the boarding house.
Right.
And a big 2D map of the whole school as well.
Right. So do you know where that's going yet, or what's happening with it?
Yeah, so I'm working with the marketing department at Scotch to get up on the website. And also Mr. Owenell, the head of boarding, is going to be utilising the 3D models at agriculture days to show to potential boarding families.
Well, one of the things we like to do as well is actually give you the opportunities to extend what you're doing in a proper business sense. So have you managed to get any business from going to those agricultural shows, or any other contacts that you have to work on your business? Yeah,
so I went to the Darwin Field Day with the Scotch team, manned the booth there and talked to a lot of agriculture people down there. And there's lots of interest in doing like type of 2D maps type things for analytics. So like getting plant health data and elevation data, so all that type of stuff. And there was definitely quite a few people that were interested. And it was a really good experience being a first kind of trade show and doing pitches about the product to everyday people.
So it was different to your 3D stuff though, really. But I mean, it didn't actually take you that long to develop the understanding of the 3D concept. So have you thought about applying it more directly to that target audience, being the farmers, and doing it in an agricultural way?
Yeah, so I think the main markets for Droneify is residential property is really, really big market. Also commercial property. But I'm really interested in getting into like the agricultural industrial market, because I definitely think that there's big applications for this. Like generally, the only way to get a big 2D map or 3D model of the farm is to use satellite imagery or plane imagery, which just can't get the same quality that drones can. So with drones, you can get about a centimeter accuracy, so you can see things that are literally this big. But with satellites and planes, you can't. It's like a meter accuracy. So for analytics, from an analytics point of view, it's just much more logical to use a drone.
All right, we might jump to...
Actually, can I jump in? So, Nathan, just coming back to your experience and like in the sort of birth of, computing really, and then the rise of Silicon Valley and all these kind of things. Can you talk to that, what that trajectory was like, that experience being at the sort of forefront of this boom now, that we all sort of now, take for granted, all this technology?
I wish I had been just a few years older at that time. So at the time I first got involved in this field, I was probably 13 years of age, but you just lap up so much knowledge at that point. And IBM had just announced they're releasing the world's first personal computer. So I think it was a 64 kilobytes of RAM, had a floppy drive, and so the 5¼ inch floppy, and a monochrome display. That's what you got for the $13,000 at the time, which is probably $35,000 in modern day money. But gee, the processing power that you had, and you had to really work. Like, if I wanted to play a video game, I'd have to write the video game to then play it. And so you couldn't just connect to the internet and download. You didn't even have bulletin boards in those days, right? So you're manually coding everything in.
You're not only making the game, you're making the rules of the game you want to play. You have to devise those, and
So like I designed one game which is very out of taste at the time. It's called the Chernobyl disaster, and you're Mikhail Gorbachev, and it's like Donkey Kong. That's what I was inspired by.
Wow.
And you're Mikhail Gorbachev running around this platform, tightening up all the cooling fluid, and you had these atomic rats that would be chasing you to kick the rats or hit them with a hammer and so forth. But Phillips thought that was in bad taste.
A little bit controversial.
A little bit controversial at the time.
So how did you learn it all? Did you use books? Did you have mentors?
So a lot of book reading. That was probably the prevalent method. You didn't have online videos or anything like that. And then you had like computer clubs. And I was writing all those computer games and did relatively well selling a few of them. And then when I moved across to Perth, we had a computing teacher at Scotch called Barney Clarkson, and Barney was very, very supportive. It was the first year that computer science was a TE subject as well. And so I think that the philosophy was, let's really encourage computer science as a field of study. And then post Scotch, I went to Curtin to do a Bachelor of Business with a major in IT.
Did any of your peers do IT at that time?
Most of my friends went on to do econs degrees or commerce degrees. So this is still a business degree, but with a major in IT. I could have done the computer science route as well, but I decided to go through the business route because I thought I knew most of the computer science sections already.
What's your take on computer programming as a subject now? Because my understanding is the uptake of students taking computer science courses is pretty low in Western Australian context compared to other parts of the world, and I'm curious to know what you think about that and how, is it a sort of essential skill set that young people should be kind of learning along with all these other important disciplines? How do you see that?
So a couple of points on that. I think having a fundamental computer science knowledge is very helpful for any discipline. It's just like having a fundamental knowledge of business and accounting and marketing. It's just another area that you need to be well versed in. In terms of having computer science as a career now, you're competing against a lot of low-cost labour pools, right? So India is sort of $6 to $8 an hour for employees in India. But the way of the new world is to have a really strong appreciation of software engineering, to write the specifications and define what your requirements are, and then having the skill sets to be able to manage those teams. But you need to have very strong technical skills to be able to manage those teams.
So it's good to have the background in it or some experience in it beforehand.
Yeah, definitely.
We were talking before about how specialised some of that technology is now as well. So the kind of thing that Ethan's doing is so highly specialised compared to probably your background, which was very broad because that's all there was at that point in time. And now it's just gone into so many different fields. I would imagine it's a bit overwhelming for students now to know how to get that general understanding.
Yeah, but I think you need to be, as a high school student, you want to have a broad depth or a broad level of understanding, not necessarily a deep understanding of all those fields, and then specialise once you get to university. And it is the rate of technology adoption and the level of specialisation that you're dealing with, it is mind-blowing. Like, I've done a lot of work in the medical area. 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it was so much easier to do things. But now we're dealing with AI, Bayesian mathematics principles. You're trying to apply Bayesian mathematics, like the probability of getting more data coming in. So you need bigger budgets and a broad skill set to bring a product to market now. So I think that the entrepreneurial journeys that are coming out in this generation are going to be different to the entrepreneurial journeys of my generation. You know, I could start a business and I could do the marketing, the sales, the production, the design, and you could be a jack of all trades to develop it. But now I think you need probably more of a focus of trying to raise the capital to be able to, it's a bigger investment to go forth to launch a business today than what it has been. In saying that, there's all these little vertical niches that you can carve out. You know, Droneify is a really good example. And, you know, and Ethan and I have talked about this, that you need to pick a niche which is big enough to be financially attractive, but not so big as to attract the major players, to then build up your business and then grow it. So you need a good solid foundation with good income coming in, so then you can add that to your business empire.
So what can you summarise then to be the ideal entrepreneur in this day and age between the two of you? What are your thoughts, Ethan? Do you know what that would be, what that person would look like?
I think to be a really successful entrepreneur nowadays, I think it's more about management of people more so than having the intimate knowledge of the technology and the actual product. Because nowadays, like Dad was saying, you need to have such a big team that are specialised in lots of small areas. You can't just be the guy behind all of it and know everything about everything going on in the business. So I think the management skills are just even more important now than they were 50 years ago.
And almost a bit of a knowledge of how to speak the language of all of these areas, right? Like the marketing, to meet with a marketing team and know
you have
know
to
that language.
dip your toe in each of those little areas a little bit, yeah.
That's kind of where the broad knowledge base comes in. So you can't be like an absolute specialist in each of these fields, but you kind of have to have some level of knowledge about everything, so everything makes sense.
And
So
probably occasionally bluff it if you need to.
Absolutely. And that's
what have you bluffed, Nathan? The biggest bluff. Let's hear it.
I can give you the biggest bluff. It might tell a story slightly premature for the Secret Service.
Okay,
Tell
it. We'll need to figure out how you got there too, but let's go there.
So I'll give you the story in all its glory.
So you lied to the Secret Service? Is that what you're saying?
It wasn't me. As my business partner, who's also an ex-Scotch guy. Bless his heart. So Zane Lewis. So Zane and I went to Scotch together and we became business partners a few years
We'll
after.
have to redact that.
So the story goes, September the 11th, 2001 was the day that we chose to open our US office.
Wow.
Of all days in history. And Zane and Rach, Zane had volunteered to fly across to Jacksonville in Florida to open up the office. So he was the last plane to land. He landed between the first and the second tower being struck in Los Angeles. Rach was here and we were all very close, very good friends and business partners. So I think I spoke to Zane for probably 6 hours that night when the tower got taken down. And so that was sort of our entourage in the United States, just catastrophic, for so many different levels. Not the least of which we'd spent a lot of money to get the US office up and going. Fast forward that to 2008, and I'll try to do my very best DC accent. And the phone goes off at the US office, and LaToya was our receptionist at the time. So LaToya answers the phone. Good afternoon, CommtechWireless. How may I help you? And this is Special Agent Tim Smith, United States Secret Service. I'm calling you on behalf of the President of the United States. Can I speak to your President, please? And LaToya still thinks, is this a
Scam
April
or
Fool's
something.
joke or whatever? So she puts the call through to Zane. It's like, hey Zane, we've got this guy, he's claiming to be calling from the United States Secret Service. I don't know, but do you want to have a talk to him or what? So Zane says, g'day. I'm the president of Comtech US in a very thick Australian accent. And so Special Agent Tim Smith says, Mr. Lewis, we've been researching companies to make a mobile, deployable mesh network, fully redundant duress system to protect the President of the United States and the first family. And we've identified that your company can design such a product for us. Would you mind coming up to the White House to do a presentation for us?
Wow.
What? Later on, we found out on our Google Analytics that the White House had typed in duress system for the President of the United States and pressed Google search.
So what is that duress system? Is that something that if he's under...
So every time the President or the First Family travels, they have a Secret Service contingent connected to them.
Yep.
And the Secret Service team sent in advance of that location to secure it from every threats. Now, if every other countermeasure had failed to protect the President or the First Family, they needed some mechanism, some fail-safe, to say, I'm in fear of my life, contact the Secret Service guys no matter what, and they come running in, guns blaring to save the day. Of course, you don't want to have a false call. You don't want to be sitting there with Putin coming in and the Secret Service guys come rushing in. And so leading on to your answer, fortunately we had a lot of ex-military people working for us in our Florida office. A gentleman of John Quasar was an ex-US Marine Corps, Purple Star and all the glamour and a whole lot of other military guys. And so Zane went up to the White House with John, and Zane tells a story that they go through like 4 hours of security checks, and like AK-47s trained on them through the whole meeting, gets through to the White House, into an area called White House Communications, and 2 huge oak doors. The oak doors open, there's the boardroom table with Secret Service and CIA and FBI and all the various cloak and dagger organisations. And they start rattling out to Zane what are the product requirements. And we're talking about a lot of custom developments here. So that's very, very specific list of requirements because it has to be impervious to terrorist attacks. If you think that, again, the era what we're dealing with is post 9/11, so real bona fide threats to the safety of the President. And this was the last line of defence if every other countermeasure had failed. So Zane, bless his heart, sure, no problems, we can do that. Just give us the purchase order, come on. Trust me. And so I'm on the phone to Zane, right, straight after he's had this meeting, because it's like the biggest thing. And sure enough, Zane sort of said, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and I'm the tech guy, Zane's the sales guy. Why have you promised to these guys? So we diverted all of the resources in the company. To add to it, Zane said, I've arranged a meeting for next month where I come up and show them the working prototype.
Wow.
So then we have to divert all the engineering stuff, so the entirety of the business without having a contract, and we go flat out, right? So, but of course, you can imagine in little old Perth with how many people we had in the Perth office at the time, I think maybe 40 odd people. But we're saying the Secret Service of the United States have engaged us to develop a platform to protect the President of the United States and the First Family. Of course, so everyone's just so fired up.
Yeah, the excitement.
Enthusiastic. And it goes on before what we were saying before, but being an entrepreneur today, it's always about the people, and we're always been trying to inspire them to do great things, right? And so everyone, and it has to be genuine, right? So you have to be genuinely excited yourself to inspire that genuine level of excitement themselves. So anyway, we diverted all the resources of the company to develop this mobile deployable mesh network duress system, ship it across to Zane, and lo and behold, it has to go out to a public bid because it's well in excess of the $1 million type contract. And goes out on a Friday afternoon for a public bid, closes on the Monday, and then a few days later we've got this multi-million-dollar purchase order on the fax machine going, holy smokes.
With a little seal of the President, pretty much.
Exactly. I've got some White House mugs and so forth. And so it's just the most
surreal.
It's just like mind-blowing experience. And not surprising, the company that lost the contract to us then acquiring the company a few months later. And
Wow.
So that's like the abbreviated White House story. It's a really great experience, though.
So how did they see you as a company that could achieve what they wanted? Was that when you were in the medical field?
Yeah, Zane was just a brilliant salesman.
Right.
Okay.
The core business that we had at CommtechWireless was a medical middleware business. So we would take in disparate data sources from biomedical machines. So we'd have
For diagnosis.
we'd have patient monitoring, pulse oximetry, ventilators, IV pumps, pathology results, imaging results. That would all come into a platform. We'd analyse all that raw data, identify emerging clinical risk, and send those.
Was there a lot of that going on at the time?
No, we were very much the innovators in that space.
So that's why they would have seen you as...
So they actually saw we had some deployments, this is somewhat ironic, in psych facilities. And so we needed, in some of the psych facilities, the staff needed locational, positional duress systems. So if a staff member was attacked by a psychiatric patient, then we need to hone in on where that staff member was. So you had things like man down alarms, so a little mercury switch. So if they're lying down and not moving, send off the notification. So that was the genesis of the end.
And someone had spotted that particular application in the Secret Service and gone,
yes,
that's all we need.
That's somewhat of a hypothesis.
Right. Yeah.
And when I say it really was a Google search, it really was. You know, sort of came from DC. This Google search for address system.
Wow.
So yeah, quite a surreal experience to live through.
They must have put you through the ringer a bit, given you're an Australian. But I mean, you'd moved to the States, obviously. But so did they put you in through the ringer a bit more than perhaps other companies would have been?
Yeah. So again, lots of interesting stories on that. So when we secured the White House contract, because it was so substantial to the company, we decided to relocate head office functions out of Australia across to Jacksonville. So then Ethan is a very young age. And he developed a wonderful southern accent
Wow.
at the time. And so Ethan was 18 months. And then Trudy and I were relatively recently married. So we moved across the United States. Again, it's just a surreal experience. We sold our house for tax purposes. You have to demonstrate that you're cutting your ties with Australia and you're setting up, and that really was a situation. We were planning on a long-term move to the United States. We sold a house, we sold our cars, shut down our bank accounts, repurchased a home, purchased cars, and did everything in America. And then 3 months later or 6 months later, we get approached for the business to be acquired. Then Lachlan gets born, our little American at home. And that's sort of the craziness of that story coming through.
Wow.
Well, you talked about innovation in that company that you're in. So I'll ask you this question. What does R&D stand for?
So my first employer as a young man, I was working for a company called Osco, and they manufactured nurse call systems, right? So these little buttons that you press for help. And Bob said to me, he asked me what R&D stood for. I said, research and development. And then he said, no, replicate and duplicate.
Sometimes I think people see innovation as something that's really vast and incredibly creative that only some people are capable of. But it's taking, and I think this is a quote from you, I can't remember the exact quote, something about finding the connections between areas is where you find the innovation. Do you remember what it was you said?
So I did a speech for Innovation Australia on the subject.
True innovation is born from the convergence of multiple perspectives.
I recognise the quote. I can't remember exactly what I said.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said.
Yeah, there we go. The point I think I was trying to convey is you shouldn't innovate for the sake of innovating. You should innovate based on customer demand.
But in that space, though, you're taking knowledge that you have from a multiple different areas and research. Even if it's a research skill, like we'll talk about your magic.
Yes,
both of you soon as well. But in that space, you'll be looking at how do I figure out this little bit, and now I'm going to combine it with this little bit, and then I can create this product that does all the stuff that this person's asking me to do.
Yeah, so I think it's important to listen to the customers of who you're trying to sell the product to, but you also need to apply. I mean, I can talk about some things which haven't gone as well. So one time I was at a restaurant and we were giving a little vibrating, flashing buzzer. Right, excuse the pun. And that would vibrate when your meal was ready to be collected. I'm sure that you've been given them at some point. And I was saying, gosh, I can create that. And so we went out and we created them. We sold a whole stack of them. But that's an example of doing something because we could do it, not necessarily because we should have done it. We were a medical technology company, and we, my mistake, I elected to develop a product because we could develop it. But then we're selling products into the hospitality sector. And so that meant the company lost focus, and we split our resources. And I didn't, at the time, comprehend how that would chew into a bit of the marketing time, a little bit of production time. And the business could have grown faster if we'd stayed true to our vision.
One area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had my time again, I'd probably change a few of those things.
So Ethan, with Droneify, with your company, you clearly have a market there. There's clearly some customers out there that you're listening to, that that are out there that are quite niche, I guess, at the moment.
Yeah.
But you've also got that real enthusiasm for that, not just for satisfying those customers, but you kind of have to have a passion for playing with the gear and the tech and the beyond that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So with all the stuff that I do at Droneify, I have a real deep passion for all of it. So like with augmented reality, virtual reality, drones, 3D modeling, it's all stuff that's right up my alley that I love experimenting with. I think that's why I stuck with Droneify through the tough times when I was originally creating the prototypes, because I have a real fascination with all those types of tech. And when I was looking at the customers or potential customers for the market, I remember talking to a real estate friend of Dad's, Andrew Gill, and he's talking about how like boring it is to do walkthroughs for houses. He's a realtor, and especially in the COVID-19 climate, where you can't actually physically go out to these residential properties to check it out. So I thought that would be a good market to kind of help out during COVID, especially. Because when you're in lockdown, there's just no way to go out to these properties and check out everything they have to offer. So the next best thing is to make 3D models of the place and interactively allow the user to check it out.
Yeah, I think what's also fascinating about that is even in the midst of COVID, we have this crazy real estate boom happening where people are buying and selling houses. Almost counterintuitively to me that the market would be so hot in that environment. So then you're gonna, in that kind of context, you've got a ongoing big market. Exactly. I imagine, with all of this uncertainty around.
Like with all these residential properties going up onto the market, everyone wants to stand out from the competition. And how do you do that online? Or if you go into a real estate website, all of the houses have the same type of marketing scheme. They all have just boring old 2D photos. And that doesn't engage the user at all. It's like they've seen it all before. So if you have an interactive, engaging 3D model, then that really exudes a premium price point for the house and a premium feeling.
Yeah, and what Ethan can do as well is he can actually give it to you on your phone and place that model of the building or complex down on a table, and you can actually just move your phone around and look at it.
Yeah, so
it's pretty incredible.
The augmented reality, you can just load up on your phone and then put it down on the table using the iPhone camera, and then it has positional tracking as well, so you can walk around and check out the different angles. And then you've also got virtual reality for virtual reality headsets, so you can put on the virtual reality goggles and then load up the model and walk around the model and look around in three-dimensional space, so it feels like you're really there.
The thing that really amazed me was a couple of years ago I sponsored a project, a hologram. So this is when you can visualize it without wearing special eyepieces, and then you've got a holographic image on the table. Right, so this is really a very innovative technology.
Microsoft are in that space quite heavily, aren't they now?
Yeah.
But
like with the HoloLens.
Yes, sorry, yes, of course. Yep.
And then Ethan somehow managed to get a holographic version of Scotch put on, and that was just a mind-blowing experience. We're sitting there with a miniature, solid model of Scotch without wearing glasses, where I can walk around like this and actually see it. It's just
That's incredible.
It's crazy.
And then also like hand tracking as well. So you could use your hands to make the model bigger and smaller and rotate around. So
Like Minority Report.
Minority Report.
Yes.
So
I feel like that's what you're going to be doing in a few years' time.
Yeah, I think so. Well, because as you build better functionality to be able to manipulate that hologram, right, it's going to get even more Minority Report-ish, isn't it? So, in terms of international, like if I'm in California and I want to buy a property in Perth, that's also,
Contact Droneify.
How about that deal that you did for the TD?
Yeah, so Dad was working on mergers and acquisitions with a company that was trying to sell the company, and they had lots of international buyers that they were interested in seeing the company. So what I did to help out the due diligence team was to make a 3D model of the company headquarters, which were in Perth. Because of COVID restrictions, you can't fly over here to check everything out. So that was a good way for the due diligence team to see everything that the company has.
Wow. So you Teens in Business Award,
Yeah.
what did you learn from that? You had mentors. I imagine they were pretty high-level mentors. Did you learn anything new from that situation?
Yeah, so probably the main mentor was Peter Gray, and he had a bit to say during the presentation about like scaling a business and making a business successful. But I really liked the full experience of the Teens Business Awards and becoming a finalist. It was great getting like a solidified kind of elevator pitch ready, so condensing everything down to show what you have to offer.
Yeah, because you were originally a little bit too tech-heavy with your presentation, is that right?
Yeah, so I think sometimes I kind of forget not everyone understands the tech and is super interested in the tech. They kind of just want to know the applications. So it's good to get that feedback and switch around a bit to talk more about the customer than the technology itself.
Mm.
can I ask it, what aspects do you really want to learn more about as an entrepreneur? Like, what have you found most challenging and the stuff you think you might be missing right now to finish the puzzle of being a fully successful ongoing entrepreneur?
I think the biggest problem I face is getting adults and people in general to take a teenager seriously. So you can have like a great technology concept and have a good business model, but just because you're a teenager, people kind of discriminate and kind of scoff, like, this teenager doesn't know what he's doing. So I think I need to find a better way to immediately show it. I'm not just joking around. I've got a cool technology and a business model. And
yeah, because it's
great.
You can prove that with the tech too. So I can understand why you want to go tech heavy with your presentations, because that proves that you know what you're talking about. Because I've seen you getting asked questions by people that used to work for Google and things like that, and you were just straight down their throat straight away. And I think they were trying to trip you up, but you
they were
smashed it out of the park.
Yeah, so it's definitely good to have that knowledge of tech, because if you get some really techie guys that want to test you and make sure that you know your stuff, so you always have to know how to.
And I think at the end of the day, if someone's going to part with $100,000 to help fund it, they want to know every detail, right? They'll go beyond just liking you as a person and all that kind of stuff. They want to see that you know every detail. But you're a pretty convincing guy already, I have to say.
Well, you're
if I had
interested in
$100,000, I'd be
entrepreneurs, right? Didn't you send an email to Steve Wozniak a little while? What happened there?
Yeah, so I sent an email to Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, and I asked him about entrepreneurial advice that he has and what he was like in high school and what steps I can take to make a similar business to Apple in the future. And he just gave me like full paragraph responses to all my questions. It was just
and
fantastic.
what Dad think of that?
Well, I came back from school one day. I said, "Dad, guess who emailed me?" He said, "Who, son?" "Steve Wozniak." And Dad didn't believe me. He thought I got like a scam email or something. And then I showed him the email, and then he was like, "Whoa, this is awesome."
And Nathan, did you immediately go, "I'm going to try and get hold of Steve Jobs"?
But that would be the main feed at the time.
Yeah.
You need to use a bit of magic for that one, right?
Yeah, I'd be worried if Dad got an email from Steve Jobs.
Well, I have to say, like, I mean, at home, we have such a great relationship. We really talk through everything all the time. The first thing that Ethan does when he gets home is he sits down and says, "How's your day, Dad?" And I tell him what I'm working on. But because there's such a broad cross section,
That's because you work on interesting things. The way our kids don't ask us. It's boring, but you're making magic tricks and doing work with Secret Service.
But even outside those things, like when I was doing IPOs and RTOs or doing Series A capital raise for a company, so Ethan's there, or we've got legal disputes. We're talking about it like you talk through with adults, right? And I'm sure Ethan could probably quote the sections of law that we deal with. He reads all the correspondence. So it's just that
enthusiasm.
Yeah, that passion to understand, right? And at the age, he just really soaks it right up.
Yeah, it's great to talk about Dad with all the stuff, especially with all the Droneify stuff, asking for his opinion on all the stuff, and learning a lot from Dad.
Or when we had the COVID lockdowns, I thought we'll do Business 101 when Ethan's at home. So
sole traders, Pty Ltds.
so we went through all the corporate entities or entity types. We did like law, we did accrual
franking credits,
dividends.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But it was great. It was a great time for us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Now, well, and I think that's a nice sort of segue now. Did you spend a bit of that time showing Ethan a few magic tricks?
Yes. So
well, it's funny. We've had Pierre on here as our first guest for the Range project, and I've since met another one of those. I think you're in a little circle.
Yeah.
So I met Matt Hale, who foils with me. We just did a podcast on foiling, so he's a foiler, and I was at a dinner with James Diamond as well, who's awesome, and all of them speak incredibly highly of you.
That's very nice.
So what do you do with magic, and how is that possibly a career?
So to backtrack a little bit, so after we did that Secret Service project, I thought it'd be a wonderful idea. We'll move back to Australia and go into retirement. And that sounded like a wonderful idea, except I got back to Perth and I had none of my friends to play with because they all had full-time jobs or other things. And so I'm sitting there changing Lachlan's diaper, thinking, how have I gone from protecting the President of the United States and the first family to changing diapers? So I set up a venture capital firm, and we started to invest, take equity positions in tech startups and list those onto the ASX, which was financially rewarding, but didn't quite tick my my tech area because it's much more the financial side of it. And so then I started to get interested in magic, which is sort of a very multidisciplinary field.
So this is post 40. You got interested in magic.
Yeah. So I always liked watching magic, and so then we developed a range of really clever magic effects, and we had some early success.
When you say magic effects, what do you mean? Like tech kind of magic effects, or
not necessarily
physicsy
tech.
kind of?
Well,
What realm are they sitting in?
They're sitting more in the tech space. Who was it? Arthur C. Clarke said that anything which is sufficiently technologically advanced would appear as magic. And that's really what we sat in. And that really reached a pinnacle a few years ago where I was very pleased to go to David Copperfield's show in the United States, and Chris Kenner was, and has been and still is, David's manager. So I showed Chris Kenner what we do, and you could see Chris got so excited. You've got to show this to David, you've got to show this to David. So he gets on the phone, and David's the pinnacle of this area, right? And so I go in to show it to David Copperfield. So he's just like a kid. Right? We're walking in there, and we go into his bedroom, funny enough. He's got a bedroom connected at the hotel that he performs at the MGM. And we're showing this stuff to David, and David's getting excited. And so, of course, that just really fuels it when you see David
A master like that.
Yeah, and then the following night we see another very well-known magician, Chris Angel, and then Chris got so excited. And so those two really inspired me to put some more money into this space. And it is quite an expensive area to innovate in. There's a lot of groundbreaking. You're trying to recreate the facsimile of being able to foretell future events and to read minds.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, when I saw James recently, I was,
Yes.
you obviously just, you're looking now, I'm watching your fingers,
So,
I had no idea. Like, it's so incredible.
so is the tech play a big role in mentalism, in mentalism as well? Is that what you're
Surely
alluding
not.
to?
Sometimes it can, sometimes it can't.
He's not
So
selling it,
because
yeah.
because it is very multidisciplinary, there's a lot of varying skills that are used.
Can you tell us what those, not, divulge the tricks, but I mean, there's obviously reading body cues and body language, and that's part of mentalism.
I mean, do you want to try one?
Okay.
So we'll do. So Heath, I gave you a set of dice before.
Yeah, they're good.
I'll get it over here. Now, do you want to change the camera? For
Yeah, I'll zoom out.
And Steve, we've got to be questioning some of your maths skill sets momentarily.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I hope you're questioning Steve and not me.
If you need a calculator, let me know.
Okay.
So take those over there.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is, without showing anyone else, so just put them on the table in front of you, but cover them so that Ethan can't see.
Okay.
Oh, and I can't see.
Yep.
So let's take the white
Have you
dice.
planted mirrors in here before the show?
I covered them really well there.
Okay.
Okay, so take the white dice
Mm-hmm.
and change it to a particular number.
Mm-hmm.
And Heath, could you take your white dice and you change it to a number as well?
Okay.
Have you both done that?
Can I change it
Yeah.
again, or do I?
Yeah, you can change it again if you
Okay.
want. You got it?
Yep.
Ethan, you okay?
Yeah.
So, at the moment, what's the probability you got the same number on the white dice? 1 and 6.
Oh, and the one dice, yes.
Yes.
1 6, yeah.
Okay, let's
We're just talking about the white dice here.
just the white dice
Okay.
at the moment. Let's change the red dice. So you change the red dice, keep the
Okay.
white where it is. And Heath, can you change the red dice as well to a number?
Yep.
So now we've got 1 and 6, which is 136.
Yep.
Now the math's going to get harder.
Yeah, it's like
Oh.
6 times 30. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we want at the moment, we've got the white, the black. Change the black dice.
Do I have to change it?
Yeah, make it interesting. You changed
Maybe I
it?
didn't change. Yeah, no, I changed it.
Oh, you don't have to. That's okay. Are you happy?
Should I change?
Sorry?
Should I change the black dice?
Oh, it's up to you.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Heath, can you show us what have you got?
Oh.
That's not bad odds.
No. 464. What did you give us, McLean?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and they're all just. All right. Yeah.
So
Same colours as well. Same colours.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
that could be a good philosophical debate.
Yeah.
That's-
See, that's.
Epistemology. How do we know? what we know?
Yeah. How do we know what we know?
Yeah.
so that's sort of like one.
Yeah, but like the logical part of me has just can't believe that anything that happened there is possible. And I don't
Yes.
know. I mean, these might be funny dice. I don't know, but and that could be the tech. And but
But you didn't roll the dice; you chose the number, right?
yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like they're loaded
No,
dice.
but is it? And I know some of these mentalism tasks can be based on what people would normally do under circumstances, like maybe try and add it up to 10 or standards. I've seen Pierre do a couple of these things
Yes.
as well,
Yes.
and he's explained some of them to us.
Well,
But
let's try-
still, anyway.
Well, let's try
that's
something a little bit
ridiculous.
different then.
All right.
So let's try. So we'll try with this, then. and then we'll test Ethan's
Pie knowledge.
pie knowledge. So we've done the dice trick.
Yep.
Now, do you know how many cards there are on a deck?
52,
And so therefore the probability of choosing one card.
1 in 52.
Okay. What's the probability to choose the same card? 52 squared.
So yeah, what do you,
Two
between
decks.
two decks?
Yeah. Would you like red or blue?
Blue.
Doesn't really spread that nicely on here, but
Yeah.
get that there. Just try to spread those a little bit. Okay, all different?
Yep.
So what I want you to do is I want you just to point to one of these cards. Just point to anyone. Keep your finger on it. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Leave it there. So you could have had any of those. Now, do you want to change? Are you happy with that?
Happy.
Okay.
Watch him very closely, Sam.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So how long you guys worked together for?
Don't distract us.
Have you worked here for a long time?
We've worked here about 8 years together, have we?
More. I think
9 years?
Nine,
Eight
10.
and nine?
I don't know. About that. Long enough.
Now, I'm going to give you a choice. Either you can give me a number,
Yep.
and we'll count down that number, or you can point. Would you rather me count, or would you rather point? Up to you.
Oh, do I just give you a number?
Yep,
Yeah.
and I'll count down those number of cards.
Okay, 8. Come on.
8. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 8th card. You want you can change if you want.
I'm keen for the 8th card.
Keen to the 8th card. Have I done anything tricky so far?
Not that I can see.
But most likely, yes.
And now, Ethan, it's involved 3 people in this trick.
Okay.
Do you want to do some Q&A and try to determine what card? And all the cards are different. Right, yes.
Yeah.
Would you like to do some Q&A and see if you can figure out what cards are
Should we get
chosen?
them to have a look at the card first so I can read the body language? Or
Okay. So you two don't show each other.
Okay.
But you grab the card and just have it to yourself.
Okay. Okay. Now look at me very closely. Thinking it's a black card.
Do I have to respond? Or you just,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
It's not a number card, is it? No number?
Do they have to tell the truth, or they can lie?
They can lie too if they want.
It's definitely a number.
You just made it easier, Mr. McLean. I can tell when you're lying. So that just leaves the king, the jack, and the queen.
Is ace a number though? I wasn't sure about that one.
Queen, clubs. So your card?
Oh, man.
And you both have the same card.
So how do you learn that? Like,
Magic.
is this something that's been taught to you, or is it something you figured out? Is it books? Is it? How do you learn that?
Yeah, you don't have
Hogwarts.
to give us the... yeah, maybe that's for off camera.
Let's try something else. Let's All right. I want to create a nice big number. Can we have a pen and paper?
Be blank paper. Oh,
Yep. Just go right down. So I want you just to create a big number for you. So just do exactly as I ask, if you could. So I want you to type in, say, the day that you were born, like 20 or whatever.
Yep.
Yep.
With 0 in front, or doesn't
No,
matter.
it doesn't matter. Okay.
Yep.
Now just press the multiply symbol this time
Mm-hmm.
by the month that you were born.
Mm-hmm.
Now press multiply again.
Mm-hmm. You're looking at, can I do it? Do
Yeah,
have
you
to
can do it
Okay.
down. And by the year that you were born.
Yep.
And then I want you to add. Can you just plus a 4-digit number that is meaningful to you?
Okay.
Then press equals.
Yep.
And can you put the phone over here for me?
With it up, or?
Yeah, with the up. So I want to see what the
Yep.
result is. So could you read that? Sorry, read that out to me.
488,862,222.
Okay, could you take that book? I want this to happen very fast. I want you to tell Ethan the 4-digit number that you're thinking of. Yep. And Ethan, I want you to see if you can recall the page, the line, and the index on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
2284.
Page 6, line 10.
Page, what do you say?
Page 6, not
Page 6.
Page 6,
Line 10.
line 10.
And where in the book?
13 spaces over.
13 spaces. Did he get it?
Yep.
I've been learning that 50,000 digits of pi for the past 3 months.
Wow. Oh, wow.
But you know what's really funny about that?
That's crazy.
Then, so mathematically, if I divide this through, and I can do the math in my head because that would be the 2nd of February would be your birthday. And would you mind pulling out your phone and just go to your phone for a moment? Yeah, and just go, make a phone call.
Oh, okay, yep.
Let's just try call 0,
Yep.
4,
Yep.
8, 8, 8,
Yep.
6,
Yep.
2, 2,
Yep.
2, 2.
Call it.
Yep, call it.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, there's too many layers there to even think about it. My head's exploded.
And so that's what we do for a business now.
Wow.
And so we design effects that...
Do people buy them from you? Like,
Yeah.
right. So you're like a songwriter, and an artist will buy songs from you.
A trick maker.
Yeah, well, let me assure you, there's a lot going on to make that happen. You
Yeah,
know, right.
yeah.
So there is an incredible amount of things that make it look very simple. But
Not just Ethan memorising 30,000 digits of pi.
was it 30 or
50,000.
Sorry, 50.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
So it's a lot of fun though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing.
That's such a unique area. This is the thing. Like most people wouldn't even know that was an area of magic, like tech development of
Yeah,
magic
so- so
tricks.
I mean,
you know.
it's not just tech.
What percentage of that is tech?
Well, let's try this.
You're not telling me anything.
Just flick through that book.
Yep.
Are all the pages different?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just try one effect first. I just want you to say stop wherever you want. How's your eyesight? So can you read that word?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
Just say stop wherever you want. My eyesight's not very good.
Stop.
Just there.
Yep.
Have you got it?
Yep.
Do you know the word?
Yep.
I'll make a prediction. We'll come back to that word in a second. I think it's very well. And now we're going to make it a little bit tougher. I want you to choose any word on any page, but don't choose something from the first line because people think I've memorised, not to 50,000, not memorised every line. And don't choose something like Sherlock or Moriarty or something obvious.
Yep.
Right,
Okay.
Just look at
Any word, any page,
Yep.
not the first line.
Yeah, and make it a tough word.
Okay.
Yeah, so at least 5 letters. And once you've got it, close it up.
Okay.
You've
Oh,
got it?
okay. Hang on. Sorry.
Yeah, close it up.
Yep.
Okay. Is it at least 5 letters?
I've got it. Yep.
Are you happy with that word?
I am.
How does that make you feel? No.
Okay.
You're not happy with? Are you happy with that word? Ethan, if you're going to try and read the mind, what do you reckon?
So it doesn't make you very happy, Mr. McLean? Yes or no?
It doesn't make me happy, that word.
Well, this is something to do with mourning. Is that the word you're thinking of, Mr. Sterrett?
That is the word. That's crazy.
That is crazy, isn't it?
Ooh.
So,
Wow.
Magic.
I'm just trying to think how that even
No, I'm
works.
joking. I
can't-
memorized
it's-
Sherlock Holmes too.
Sounds like he's doing all the work here.
Yeah.
Like,
do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite card?
Yeah, probably.
What is your favorite card?
Two of Hearts.
Two of Hearts. Oh, the word you were thinking of. I think you killed it before.
I did, yes.
Two of Hearts. I'll try not to, because I'm sure I had the Two of Hearts in here somewhere.
It's going to be behind my ear.
Yeah, I am pleased that you did say the Two of Hearts. I had that Two of Hearts in there. But before.
all right. We're going to be watching this footage again and again, aren't we?
Slow
We're
motion,
just going.
so
So
bad.
frustrating. It really is watching that.
Just enjoy it, Mr. McLean.
I know, I do, but man.
I think what's so frustrating is he is a pretty kind of enthusiastic problem solver.
That's what
McLean.
STEM's all about.
And those tricks just like force you to, how is it done? And you can't get the answer as much as, you know.
And the more frustrating thing is, it's all STEM.
Yeah.
I'm clearly not the STEM expert in the room. Yeah. All right. Well, we better finish up there
Yes.
now. Do we want to have a quick fire? Maybe one or two quick fires? Or was that our quick fire? Give him a quick
Oh,
fire.
no. There's a couple of quick fires.
Okay.
I'm hoping to ask both of you, actually,
okay.
if that's okay. Starting with you, Ethan.
Yeah.
Is there a book in the last couple of years that you've read that has really had a profound impact on you?
That's
a
not
book,
pi to 50,000 decimal places.
yeah, beyond this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of had an impact on the way you think about the world, entrepreneurism, any of those things.
Yeah, definitely. So the two books that come to mind I've read in the past year or so is the Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And those are really just two great books. So the Steve Jobs book really went into great detail about his whole life and from being adopted in like the 60s to starting Apple. So all these great steps in Steve Jobs' life to great success. And it was really interesting to see all those steps. And all of this stuff was proved by Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs was there writing it side by side with Walter Isaacson the whole time, proofing it, making sure that was all accurate. So that was really interesting to read and take a lot of the stuff that he said and advised in that book in my business and life. And also How to Win Friends and Influence People was a really profound book where you kind of really changed the way you thought about business interactions and just everyday interactions as well. Lots of interesting principles that are definitely very applicable in everyday life. And this book was written over like decades ago, and all the stuff is still really applicable in today's business world.
And did that give you more confidence in your interactions, that
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie book?
Yeah, definitely. So I knew exactly how to like talk in business meetings and how to create interest and really sell the product through all those
Excellent.
principles in those books.
Dad, what about you?
Ethan School Reports, number one read, and the 2021 Master Tax Guide.
Okay.
No, in all seriousness, the Warren Buffett biography I found was really interesting. I love Buffett's approach and the metrics that he uses and the way how he thinks through things. I used to do a lot more reading when I was younger, but I suppose in recent years that's waned off a little bit. I'm just so busy, I don't get much time to read for pleasure, but I used to.
Okay.
The books that
Yeah.
Ethan's reading now from my collection.
Yeah, Dad's got this big tray of old books I used to read when he was a young entrepreneur, so just picking all those up and
Fantastic.
rereading them.
Yeah.
So, and you've got a book about a great business operator, maybe one of the greatest in Warren Buffett, and you've got one of the greatest entrepreneurs, and so I imagine there's a bit of conversation about those two books.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's a lot to be learned in biographies and autobiographies, like kind of modeling the business off those early stories about like Apple and Amazon and all those different businesses.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
great.
brilliant, Ethan.
Like, I've read the books previously, but so long ago now, I've forgotten, and Ethan refreshes my memory about them. We had some good discussions over them, and some of our thoughts, contemporary thoughts, reflecting upon what the time was like in their era and how things have changed.
But the probably big takeaway I took from Steve Jobs' book was presenting. Like Steve Jobs was a really master presenter. He got everyone in the room really excited about the technology and the prospects of what the technology could give to the consumer. And I tried to use a few of his techniques and his persona, like type of persona on stage when I do presentations or pitches. So that was really a big takeaway from me.
I imagine that is so integral because you got to raise capital, don't you?
Exactly.
You got to be able to people would want to part with their money for your business.
You got to get people really excited to part with their money. It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
I'm sure some of those mentalism tasks might help with that as well.
Yes.
Mind games.
All right, so Deserted Island, what music is on your Spotify playlist?
I defer all my music selections to my wife and to my son.
Okay.
What do you reckon, Eden?
Piano Man's got to be the top of the list there.
Piano Man.
That from your US days?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good song.
Great song.
It's probably on the top of the list.
And a habit that you've formed in the last 5 years that has been of most benefit, not necessarily the last 5 years, but maybe a habit you formed in the last 10 years.
5 years is a long time for a 15-year-old.
It is. Do you want to start with you, Ethan?
I'll let Dad start.
Well, sort of a double-edged sword, because I've sort of got a reverse scenario now, because I developed a whole lot of good habits when I was running my larger business, so now it's a little bit sort of reversed. Yep. So I think in the early days, a really good habit I was just writing everything down I'm going to do in that day. As silly as what it sounds, is you get, I found I had a high sense of achievement at the end of the day, seeing all the things
ticked
off, whereas you don't sort of realise all the things that you get done. And in recent years, turning my phone off at a reasonable hour and not constantly checking messages, and I'm still very guilty of that, but it's work in progress.
Actually, I know we've got to finish up, but I just really want to ask you this question. If you think about email, before we get onto your habit, by the way, how do we solve the problem of email? Because it feels like it's enslaved humanity to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, Apple are making some great progress in that space, where you can, in the latest version of iOS, you can start flipping what profiles you have to start filtering that through.
Okay.
And so I think we'll see on one hand, you've got the handset manufacturers who want you to be 24/7 on your device, but you've also got longevity of your clientele base. You don't want them to get burnout as well.
Right. Okay.
So I think just filtering through of messages, it's difficult. Like with the magic business, because we sell worldwide. There's always someone who wants something, and I'll just get pinged all night. So I have to use the do not disturb, otherwise my phone's going ping, 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 ping.
Right.
And if I forget to turn do not disturb on, I get a very upset wife.
Okay. We might be going a bit more targeted, like WhatsApp groups and teams and things like that. They tend to be pretty targeted, specific areas, and it can all be contained within that one content area, which might be a pathway.
Yeah, there's lots of other platforms now coming out, aren't there, where they're project-orientated platforms that what are they called?
Shared documents and things like that, so you don't have to email.
I don't think there's really been that. I mean, if I look at all the number of instant messaging apps, so I've got Signal, I've got WhatsApp, I've got email, I've got Messenger. It's just a huge list. I find it personally frustrating having to flip through all the different communication mechanisms to make sure I've got. I think someone like Apple should create a universal messaging app and then have integrations into all the vendors, so you got a single source of truth, a single section to search. That would be a great innovation to have.
Well, maybe you can do it.
then maybe we can do it.
Yeah.
All
Next
right.
venture.
Well, we better cut it there, eh?
Oh,
you got one more. Okay,
one
come on,
more.
Sam,
We just
hurry up.
hadn't got Ethan's habit. 'cause
Oh,
I'm
yes,
sure he's
okay.
got a
Yeah.
few good habits actually in the
Probably.
last
I
5
think
years.
the main one is kind of having a strong kind of intrinsic motivation to get the job done. So I remember like in year 6 when we had our first digital design lesson and projects, I noticed that lots of the boys kind of just gave up because it was too hard. They're having too many problems, and I was guilty of that too. I thought it was hard. I didn't want to keep on going, so I thought then I had to change that soon. Anyways, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get stuff done. So I think in the past couple of years, we've been working on being able to just get the job done through like intrinsic motivation, because there's always going to be someone there telling you to get it done and motivating you on the sidelines. So sometimes you have to be your own cheerleader to really push over the line and get something done.
Yeah, it's great to have that skill.
Yeah.
And that's why I really like to have both of you in. I think your constant enthusiasm for learning, both of you, is very admirable. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming in.
It was a
It's
pleasure.
our pleasure.
Yeah, really appreciate it. It's awesome.
you.